Looking for a good deal on a boat? I bet you could pick that one up for a good one. A good price. It's seen better days. It's a beautiful day, beautiful boat though. Those carvers, tons of space inside. Sad to see them when they get like that though. It'd take a lot of money to fix that up. There's an osprey carrying a fish. Going for his morning food for he and his wife, or I guess that could be the wife, and he's bringing it back. She's bringing it back to the nest. Who knows? You see a lot of action here in the water. Sometimes that's just little fish. Sometimes it could be bigger fish. It could be a turtle. It could be manatees. The water is a little bit darker right now because it's high tide's coming in. So we've got a lot of the tannins coming in from the roots of trees and stuff like that. And we've been getting a lot of rain here in Southwest Florida. So it gets, with all that rain, you get quite a bit of runoff from the roots and so forth. Turns the water darker. Now when it's low tide, the water will be nice and clear because all this dark water moves out and then you get the clear water in. But just because it's dark water doesn't mean it's bad water. Here on Kayaking, if you don't know much about Kayaking, it's a really high-end part of Sarasota County in Southwest Florida. All the homes here probably start, I mean, a new home, like this home right there, I bet that home they're building that probably for about $4 million. But your lowest priced home on Kayaking, well, your lowest priced home is going to run you about $1.5 million, if that, maybe a little bit more. And that'd be for basically a tear down to build something new, unfortunately. Kayaking's a really awesome little barrier island though. If you ever have a chance, you're ever down in Southwest Florida, highly recommend taking the drive up Kayaking Road. I love it when the clouds reflect off the water like that. Looks like a Bob Ross painting. Happy clouds. Yeah. I haven't come this way in about a month. I take a different route. Mainly because I go paddling really early in the morning before work. And it's usually in the pitch black, and this way is a little more prone to manatees. It's 7:17 a.m. right now, Eastern time. All right, get blinded by the sun here in just a second. Of course, I'm looking for manatees all the time, looking for dolphins. Never know what you're gonna find out here. Going over a bunch of seagrass right now, and this is seagrass is that's the main food of a manatee. And a lot of times you'll find those manatees just sitting there chomping away. Manatees do sleep a high percentage of the day, so you also have to watch out because they'll sleep right beneath the surface of the water, and you definitely don't want to bump into one. I mean, I'm not gonna hurt them at all with this kayak, but they give me quite a shock because I end up getting splashed, or worst case scenario, I get flipped over. A manatee is really anywhere between about, small ones about 300 pounds. They can weigh much, much more than that, double that weight. There's a reason they call them a sea cow. They're just big. This house right here was for sale. Looks like they sold it. I see a new boat out in front. That's always definitely a sign that someone's bought the house. All right, here we go. Coming around the corner. This house right here, you can see this giant screen cage. It's about 2.5 stories, 3 stories tall. It's pretty amazing. The sheer cost of those cages, something that big, it's more than about, more than a lot of people's homes, unfortunately. It got damaged in Hurricane Ian, but they did repair it nicely. They're huge Penn State fans. Got a big Penn State sign up. They have the hurricane shutters down already. Typically what that means is these folks are snowbirds, so they don't spend the summer here, but they prep their house just in case there's going to be a hurricane. So they put the hurricane shutters down. Ah, sunrise. There's really nothing better than a sunrise on over the water. It looks pretty awesome. Only thing better is, not really better, but the only thing that equals that is the sunset over the water. This house right here is for sale. All that bougainvillea on the trellis right there. I call that the devil's plant. We had a bunch of bougainvillea in our last house, and it was, you bump into it, there's huge thorns on there. Ooh, there's a cormorant. Those thorns on those bougainvilleas can be deadly. Now this house over here, if you can see it, that big white one, just that plain wall, it is the ugliest front, or side, I guess I would say. You think they would have decorated it or done something a little differently? Like a wraparound deck. I mean, they have that big gazebo thing. Whoa! That was a cormorant right there. All that kind of stuff kind of freaks you out from time to time. Sorry about moving the camera like that, but cormorants are pretty cool. They are, they're big diving birds. What they end up doing is they just dive for their food. They'll dive about, it's very shallow here, but they can dive 10 meters down, stay underwater for quite some time to find their fish. A lot of times you find a friendly cormorant if you're in shallower water. They like to follow me because I kick up a little bit of the fish, the smaller fish, from the weeds and so forth. So they follow me and they keep going until they find some fish. Got their charter boats going out. All right, I am definitely in manatee country right now. I mean, this is the one time I did get flipped over, it was right around this area. But right now I'm not seeing anything. Here you get a good idea what this Ultralight's doing, how it handles the wake. Every boater has their own definition of minimum wake, low wake, no tie. Everybody's got it. What's cool about this area is you see boats of all different shapes and sizes. Take that little boat, for example. That's really nothing more than a canoe with a small engine on the back. The guys have it outfitted with, looks like 4 to 6 different poles. They're going fishing for the day. It just doesn't matter how big your boat is. and how expensive it is. Hey, as long as you get on the water, have a good time, that's all that really matters. I saw some lightning popping in those clouds earlier. I'm seeing if we got any lightning popping right now. You can see they're building. The weather here is really unusual. All right, got a lot of action here in the water. Again, I'm over tons of seagrass right now. Just being really cautious. I'm not getting that close to any manatees. Whew, it's hot already out here. So this house over here is really nice, as you can see. They have all these giant coconut palms. I'll try to get a little closer. What's great about having a kayak like this, any kayak, any small boat, is you can really get close to the homes and check out the landscaping and just all the architectural details. When you have a bigger boat, you have to stay out in the channel, and you can't get really far in here easily. You can if you work at it. Here's all the coconut trees. Those bad boys are deadly if you're standing underneath one in a windstorm and the coconuts are ripe and ready to fall from the tree. You gotta really, really, really be careful. Love it though. Beautiful house, beautiful compound. You've got 3 main big houses. It'd be nice if you ever have guests at your house that don't want to leave. You just put up those, say, okay, you take house number 1 tonight, and don't come try to find me in the morning. This looks like a Disney attraction over here. It looks like the Polynesian village. That is crazy. I don't remember seeing that ever. That's pretty new. Don't know what's going on there. Anywho, all right, so let's talk about boathouses. So here's a small little boathouse. Boathouses are no longer in code, so you can't build them. But if you have a boathouse here in Southwest Florida, you can rebuild it. You can, of course, keep it. Or if you do tear it down, you end up having to tear it down forever. So a lot of people have old boathouses. They don't want to get rid of them because they are awesome to keep your boat nice and safe, at least out of the elements. But a lot of folks, they get damaged a little bit, and then they don't want to fix it up. This is a good indication here. This had a little probably issue during the last big storm, and they haven't really done much work to it. And it's a little better than it was last summer. This house right in front of me is what I call the cereal box. You can see how they put that little tiny narrow house. It's like a shotgun house in New Orleans. That little tiny narrow house on that lot, because the lot is so narrow, but they got themselves a, looks like a kind of a 2.5-story home put right in there. Really gorgeous. And they live right next to a roundhouse. As my grandfather many years ago said, the problem with a roundhouse is you can't find a corner to pee in. He was a wise man. Just look around here. So just to give you little bearings here, if we continue to go straight north, we'll end up, Casey Key actually runs into Siesta Key. It's tied together via sand. It's not via road. So if you want to get to Siesta Key and you're on the road, you have to go out to the highway and go about 5 miles and then head back to Siesta Key. But if you live on the Casey Key, like you can just walk there. Our most famous resident probably at the moment, Casey Key, that most popular I'd say maybe, is Stephen King. Stephen King lives in Maine in the summertime, and then he lives down here in Casey Key, Florida in the winter. All right, I'm gonna turn around. If you're not familiar with Hobie kayaks, the Hobie pedal kayaks, I'll give you a little rundown. So this is called the Ultralight. The reason it's called the Ultralight is because it's so light. It's fully loaded, meaning seat, pedals, everything on here. It's about just over 20 pounds. Very easy to put in the back of your vehicle, back of your truck, whatever it might be, or you can deflate. This particular one's inflatable, so you can deflate if you wanted to. And it inflates fully in about 5 minutes with the electric pump. I personally keep these always inflated, and I don't like to take the pressure off the seams all the time and then refill it, unfill it. Now keep in mind, I do go kayaking probably 4 days a week, so it'd be kind of a pain in the butt. I'd be wasting an hour a week if I had to deflate it and inflate them each and every time. But I've got room in my garage, much to my wife's chagrins, and I keep them inflated and stored in the garage. But the way they work is this is the pedal system. So these pedals drop down. It's called the pedal drive, and all you can see is fully adjustable. So if you're anywhere from about 4'8" to well over 6 feet tall, you can adjust the pedals to meet your needs, and you just pedal away. I've had folks on these kayaks from ages of 10 to 85 years old, and every one of those age groups could manage it. The great thing about it is, as well, is if you have someone that maybe has bad knees, bad hip, whatever it might be, they can go ahead and just they can put in a motor. There's a couple different companies that make motors that slip into where those pedals go. It's an electric motor, runs on battery, it lasts a very long time. Sorry, there's not much wildlife out here today. I mean, there's a lot of birds, but I'm always looking for those dolphins and manatees. Just to give you an idea how warm this water is right now. Water temperature is about 85, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. So now as we head back south, we're gonna head into the Intercoastal Waterway a little bit more. So Casey Key will be on our right-hand side, and our left will be Nokomis, Florida. The zip code for Casey Key and Nokomis are actually the same, so officially Casey Key is Nokomis, but Casey Key is Casey Key. I promise you the people that live out here on this island would never say they live in Nokomis, Florida. But boy, will I say I live in Casey Key, Florida. So Casey Key, a little background on Casey Key. It was actually named by accident, which is kind of a funny story. When the Army was surveying the island, the person responsible for the survey, for the ultimate responsibility, his name was Captain John Casey. So when he actually when he approved the survey, he signed it Casey for Captain Casey. And when the map drawers had the survey, they saw the name Casey at the top, that he signed it, and they just named it Casey Key. Well, in the 20s, when tourism was becoming a big thing here in Florida, the few residents that we had here on Casey Key thought, you know what, that's not touristy enough, so let's change the name. They changed the name to Treasure Island. Well, naming it Treasure Island didn't really help their tourism business, so after a couple of years, they renamed it back to Casey Key. Now about 500 residents, year-round residents, call it home. In the wintertime, that balloons up to probably about 1,200 to 1,500 residents. You never see much of a traffic jam from cars on Casey Key, but you do see quite a few bicyclists out there, walkers, folks taking advantage because it hugs the shoreline. You go in and out of, literally you go in and out of people's homes, and you cut through, you kind of go across beaches and so forth, private beaches. It's an amazing drive. On the south end of the island, you have a couple of public parks. You have the North Jetty Park, which is really nice. Then you have Nokomis Beach. Nokomis Beach used to be a nice hidden gem here in Florida. By hidden gem, I mean wasn't overrun by a zillion tourists all the time. Unfortunately, the word has gotten out that Nokomis Beach is pretty cool. Like I said, there's concessions, there's tons of space. The water's typically crystal clear. Sand is pretty good if you're a shell seeker. There's lots of shells to be found. You can see those clouds. They're just like, it's raining out there somewhere. But yeah, so the weather, as I mentioned, the weather here is really freaky. Because like right out there, you know, it's got these buildups of little thunderstorms. But it takes a lot of, right around us, it's almost like we have this little bubble around us. Every day, about 3 to 6 o'clock in the afternoon, storms start brewing from Central Florida, and they're pushing towards the coast. You got the very hot air from Central Florida moving to the cooler air of the Gulf of Mexico. And storms brew up. So about 3 or 4 days a week, we have a nice thunderstorm in the afternoon. Cools things off for a little bit. And the nice thing is it's over by sunset. So it comes in very quickly, but also leaves very quickly, dropping about a ½ inch of rain each time. tide is coming in, I believe. So I'm pedaling a little harder than I did on the way in. You have to really be careful because you'll get tricked sometimes when you first get on the kayak. You're like, oh yeah, I'm really making great time. I'm cruising. And you're like, oh wait, I got to turn around. And you're like, oh, I wish I had that motor. These boats go, when you're just pedaling, just at a good clip like this, you can get up to about, and it's not going to sound like a lot, but you can get up to about 5 miles an hour. If you're really cranking it like this, you're going about probably 6 miles an hour. When you put one of those little motors in, it averages between 5, fully blasted, you're going about 5 or 6 miles an hour. It's a great workout though. This particular boat, the Hobie Ultralight, it's extremely comfortable. It's got a very comfortable seat that you sit on. It's not like a traditional kayak where you might sit in the kayak. I'm sitting actually in a real seat above, mesh seat that it's fully adjustable so I can run it gangster style if I want to, put the seat all the way back or put it forward. On longer days, like if I'm going out for more than an hour and a half or hour, 15 hour beyond that, you might want to adjust your seat because your back will probably start hurting a little bit. But it's nice to be able to adjust it. I control the kayak with this as a tiller, and I've got the rudder in the back. It just is attached to the boat. You can detach it if you want, but it's got great handling. You can basically turn in place. So if I wanted to do a quick turn, you can definitely do that. Again, here's that house that's for sale. So if you're watching and you want to move to Kayaking, this is one of the buttes, one of the best ones. Great Spanish style. They have a small pool in there, not blocked by a cage. Oh, you just had something jump right there. What was that? That's the only problem when you're trying to show people any sort of wildlife. Basically, unless it's happening right in front of you, I hear it to the side, I hear it behind me. Let's see that we're gonna get another view of probably that same cormorant that startled me earlier. You see, a lot of times you see these cormorants, they get those wings wet, and they have a cottony wing, which is odd for a water bird. Most water birds have a waxy wing, like a duck. Water just falls right off the back of a duck. You've heard that saying before. On a cormorant, they do not. It soaks up into their wings. So after they've been in the water a long time, they can't really fly that well because they're so heavy. So they'll hop up on like a channel marker on a dock somewhere and spread their wings out like the bat signal and let their wings dry. And it takes about 15 to 30 minutes for it to really dry well, and they'll be on their way. But you see cormorants everywhere. You see them in freshwater ponds. Of course, they're all around the saltwater as well. But they're a cool bird. So here I'm on the intercoastal waterway right now. There's very little traffic right now. Most people are going the other. You might be able to see that bridge up there. They're going the other direction from that bridge because it goes out to the Gulf. And most of the people out this early in the morning are not pleasure boaters. They're going fishing. So they're heading out to the Gulf. Got to get back home. F1 qualifying's on in about 2 hours. If you're F1 fans out there, I hope your team wins this weekend or does quite well. Here's a whole gaggle of cormorants. I think there's some baby cormorants. There are out there. I was gonna say it's very odd to see. It's very odd to see the boats. Or it's very odd to see a big group of cormorants like that. They're very you see them popping up. Here comes even more. This is a cormorant party. Hey buddies, what's happening? Yeah, those are baby cormorants. Not even any pelicans this morning. Pelicans are still sleeping. All right. We're going to see a bunch of mangroves here. Mangroves are really awesome. They are one of nature's wonders. In Florida, we have 3 types of mangroves. We have what's called the red, the white, and the black mangroves. Each one has a little different look to it. But mangroves, believe it or not, even though you see them near the coastlines all over the US and all over the world, they're actually a freshwater plant. I know, it's shocking, but they're freshwater plants. And they actually filter out over 90% of the salt that's in the water before they feed the mangrove. And in this particular species, you can see some yellow leaves here. Those yellow leaves are actually where the mangrove is sending the salt. It's not because it's fall. It's not fall, obviously. It's getting plenty of sunshine. But what it does, the plant sends the salt to these various leaves throughout the plant. It kills the leaf, but it saves the entire plant, which is pretty cool. Another thing is, unlike a traditional tree, there's no root ball necessarily. You know, in the root ball, the roots are all down there in that big ball. And here you can see the roots are growing from all over the place. Even from the upper branches, you've got roots growing. And that's because the plant over hundreds of thousands of years is adapted to make sure it can always have water. So they do very well in almost any sort of water environment. What's crazy is if you start a mangrove seedling in fresh water, they grow incredibly well. And you'll see like a lot of hotels will put mangroves in like freshwater ponds and stuff. And they grow very quickly because, again, they're not having to take the energy to save themselves every day. But again, they're one of nature's wonders. And we love mangroves because mangroves protect the shoreline. They hold things together. There we go, there's a big old pelican flying around. Yeah, they've done tons of tests. Different companies and scientists and organizations and so forth have done tons of tests to see if like steel seawalls are better, cement seawalls, or mangroves. And mangroves always win. They always can tame down the tide much quicker, and it'll subdue the tide versus, say, a steel or concrete seawall like you see on these new homes and across the ICW here. That will just take the big wave and basically bounce it right off. And then it comes back and does more damage, and in some cases it can just be like a pong game and go back and forth. But again, when they build new subdivisions like this, you know, you don't want your view blocked by a bunch of mangroves that are going to save the property, save your house. You want to have a nice clear view to the water. I get it. Wasn't necessarily the homeowner that decided that's going to happen, but there's a lot of responsible builders here in Southwest Florida that use nature, and they use mangroves as a way to protect the property. These developers can trim the mangroves, but they can't remove them. In the case of these homes across the way, who knows, there may not even be mangroves there, but they could have also got permits to take them out. All right, so here you can see how the tide is coming in. You can see the water moving against us. Sometimes you see it and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna be able to get all the way back. There's a nice little cormorant sitting on the channel marker sign. Now, if you just have your wings open, buddy, you could show everybody how you dry your wings. No luck today on that one. All right. We're coming back into our channel here. This is called the Nokomis boat ramp. If you do a Google map and you look up Nokomis boat ramp, you'll see exactly where I'm at. Over there, see a nice big royal poncia. That's that plant or the tree with all the red flowers. For about 3 or 4 months of the year, about 3 months of the year, it has those bright red flowers on there, and it just almost looks like it's on fire when it's in full bloom. I'd say it's about half right there. But it has these little tiny leaves that fall off, and then they of course regrow. But those little tiny leaves get everywhere. We used to have a big royal poncia like that at our last house, and I spent a good chunk of my life raking those up, blowing them around, sweeping them up. But again, gorgeous, gorgeous tree. Whew. Somebody had commented, it looks like this is quite a workout. It can be quite a workout. It's really a workout if you're getting your legs going like this. If you keep at this pace for about 30 to 40 minutes, you'll definitely feel it. When you're just pedaling casually, you could literally go forever. Now, some people have an issue with their legs going asleep, so when you get off the boat, you have to just make sure you have a secure footing so you don't wipe out. No one wants to see that. Whew. Some more gorgeous homes. You can see everyone that lives on this side of the ICW, they've got the blackout curtains and blinds and so forth, because that sun is, it punishes you, boy, in the morning. It will wake you up. Now these are my favorite type of homes you see out here in Casey Key. They've probably been in the families for years, decades. And as someone that had a parent that had a lake house, it was the smallest house on the lake. But you know what you call the smallest house on the lake? You call it a lake house. So I'm gonna pick up some trash. Okay, there we go. You know what you call a waterfront home? A small waterfront home? It's a waterfront home. This house is brand new right here. It's unbelievable. They have a rooftop deck that you can easily see the Gulf of Mexico and the beaches and so forth right across the street. It's all built out of concrete. So with impact windows for hurricanes, that house is sturdy. They probably don't have much of a giant living space, or at least a very limited space on the basement, so they can quickly move everything upstairs in case it's gonna flood. This is a little hotel. This is what we call Motel Row here. This little motel, you can rent out different types of apartments, and they have a little condo or a little villa right there. What's great about that little villa is you're right across from the boat ramp. It's the greatest free show on earth to watch people launch boats, and more importantly, when they take them out, it's even a better experience. Believe me, I've been there. All right. We're coming to the end here. I can almost taste that Diet Pepsi sitting in my truck that I got right before I got here, nice and cold. All right. Nice little boat docks. It's always one thing. This is a company that does different types of dives and boat excursions, etc. This is a newer boat of theirs, this big pontoon with the tiki on there. But that's the one thing to keep in mind, not for that boat particular, but if you buy a boat, you think, I'll just keep it in the water, or I'll keep it at a marina. They can just launch it for me, or I'll just keep it in the water. When you keep these boats at marinas, it can easily be, say you have a 20 to 25 foot boat, which is kind of an average. You're probably going to be spending an additional $600 a month, at least, just to store that boat. But hey, if you got the money, why not? You can't take it with you. Nice little houseboat here. This guy's been living on this houseboat for years. I mean, for as many years that we've lived here, this boat's been here and he's been living on it. All right. Well, sorry everybody that we didn't find any dolphins today or manatees. We'll keep searching for next time. But thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next time. Enjoy the F1 race today from Hungary. Talk to you soon.